So how about this?
How about this?
How about this?
I mean, I wrote a song last night.
Oh, really?
I didn't. I wrote a song just now.
So how about this? The podcast where the points don't matter. With me, as always, is my co-host.
I'm Allan Dempsey.
And
I'm a guy, but who the hell are you?
I am Rafiq Shaheen. And we have a fantastic comic with us today. He's a headliner from Boston to Florida, the master of crowd work and all sorts of wonderful things. Put your hands together for the fantastic
Chris Gorges.
He laughed in incredulity when you said master of crowd work. He was like, oh, okay.
He wasn't in the Villages last night with me
Yeah.
at all. Yeah, it was an interesting evening.
So I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in.
Okay.
Well, explain what I'm looking at.
A napkin? That's a napkin.
Yeah, this is a napkin. Thank you. I have been, for the last 45 minutes, been staring at this thing going,
This is going to be so easy. What is it? That's a pen. Ding, ding. I know the points don't matter, but you've got 1,000,000 points already.
So we did a thing online where we posted up kind of like an AMA on Reddit and let people ask questions about comedy, things that, you know, they wanted to know about the industry or what have you.
Why I'm not Dane Cook.
I mean, why aren't we all Dane Cook?
That's a deeper philosophical question than we have time for.
It's real simple. No more MySpace. That's the answer.
Okay.
That was really his thing, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
Why aren't we? That's just we're all high as fuck. Why aren't we all? Why aren't we all Taylor Swift? Man?
I could be. A little practice. Just a little practice.
I will say this about Dane Cook. Like, there's something about his level of, like, effort that he put into being, like, out there. Like, putting himself out there that, like, a lot of people in our industry have overlooked.
The grind.
Right, because I remember, like, somebody, filmed him in New York. Like, this is, like, way back at the start of, like, fucking YouTube phase of things. Filmed him, like, on the street, like, bussing, like, showing people, like, hey, here's a show coming up that I'm going to be at, like, the fucking Gotham or whatever, and just put himself out there. And it's like, this is a dude who at the time was selling out, like, arenas.
Have you done shows in the city yet, in New York?
No.
When you do shows in the city, typically what happens, unless you're some big famous person, they're bringer shows. That's what they are.
Yep.
And they give you a stack of those cards, and you have to go out and bring some people to that show.
Even if you're like somebody like Dane Cook?
Not
like,
so much. I don't know what level he was at that point.
Okay.
It may have been part grind, but it's part of the deal. Yeah.
Wow. Like, I heard that about like open mics and shit like that up there. But
Did
like,
I ever talk about my open mic experience in New York?
Not on
the
the
one
podcast.
time I performed. Are you sure? So this is
Which club?
It was called New York Comedy Club.
I haven't known.
You know it? Okay. So I'm with friends on a trip to New York. And wait, while
You
I'm
didn't want
out,
to be there? I'm assuming you
no,
didn't want to be there.
I did. I like New York.
He's like, I wanted Wyoming. We went to New York. I hate my friends.
He's like, I just wanted to see flat plains.
I wanted to be on Wichita, Kansas.
Biggest city in the world. We get a wee out of him. That's what we got out of him. I like this guy.
Hi, I'm Allan. Nice to meet you. So you know, while I'm there, let's sign me up for an open mic. That'll be fun to do.
So they suggested you.
No, this was me.
You did it to yourself.
It was like here's what we're doing Monday. I go, hey guys, let's see if I can do an open. I can actually do an open mic in New York. That'll be great.
Right.
It'll be the thing we do that night.
Sure.
So we get there. Maybe a little early, but pretty much on time. And I'm told it's an open mic. It's one of those you have to bring X amount of people open mics.
Right.
So
what was the number, by the way?
I want to say four, which happened to be
a standard.
My group, like, okay, perfect. I have 4 people. Let's go.
I had 2 people, and I had to go try to find 2 people.
Oh, God.
I'm like, really?
So it was this New York Comedy Club?
No, Stand Up New York.
Okay. So we get in there, and the show should have started, and we are watching the tail end of people doing a stand-up, like, what would you even call it? When
like
you
an improv thing?
competition?
Or like...
No, like a we're doing stand-up for each other and then critiquing each other's sets.
Oh, a workshop.
yeah.
A workshop.
Workshop. Thank you.
Yeah.
My brain collapsed there.
It's okay.
So
You don't care
we're
anyway. You don't want to be there.
Yeah,
in the first
we're
place.
watching the end of a workshop for like a while.
Oof.
And it's, there's no energy in the room. The room is full of comedians performing for one another.
Right.
So then literally one of them just goes, well, I guess, all right, I guess we'll start the open mic now.
Good God.
And then they just went, okay, now it's time for the open mic. And then we sat and watched every one of those comedians
Do their stuff.
the exact same set that we had just watched them do. And I got bumped. I was the only actual person who had brought people for an open mic because I didn't know at the time. It became very obvious what was going on. And people who've been to New York are like, well, yeah, this is how it works.
Yeah.
I didn't know that comics, what they did every night is they just went and hit every club.
Right.
So you start at this club,
Yeah.
you do a set, and then you immediately run 4 blocks down the other way and do another club. And
Yeah,
then
Steve Byrne did a documentary where he followed himself with a camera.
Yeah.
He did 13. He broke the record. 13 sets in one night or whatever it was.
So I was like scheduled to be like 4th. Then the room filled up with comics who had not brought anyone. And I got bumped to basically the end where I had to watch comics perform for comics.
Yeah.
Because the only people in the room were comics.
Well, that's one of the reasons I don't do open mics.
So-
it's not that I think I'm better. I just, ugh.
So when
hate you
I
guys.
got up,
Right.
when they finally like, oh please, sir, may I have some more? When they finally like gave me the chance to go up,
You're like, I'm on vacation.
my first line was, yeah, I woke up this morning going, oh man, I'm going to perform in a real New York comedy club.
Just the bones of that story. The idea of sitting through a workshop of comedians, critiquing other comedians,
Yes.
and then watching those comedians perform for still more comedians,
Doing the exact same act that
Right.
they had just done in the workshop.
right,
Well-
exhaust my spirit.
Yeah.
They're-
Well, let me just jump in because I'll say when I came to Florida, I had done some comedy up north. Did a couple contests, and that's where I basically cut my teeth. I was a house MC at a steakhouse comedy club. Banquet room, whatever the hell it was. But when I came here, that's what it was. The Comedy Works in Tampa. It was basically what you just said. There was a workshop that started at like 4:30 or 5 or whatever it was. We sat around, we went through material, and I went through that with a lot of guys that Pretty Paul Parsons was in that workshop.
Oh, okay.
Michael Mack was in that workshop.
Okay.
What the hell's his name from Boston? Mike McCarthy was in that workshop. Derek Richards. These guys are pretty regional guys that are well known. They're not famous or anything, but and same thing. Then later on the open mic, we'd go have something to eat, and then we'd come back and 45 minutes, and there'd be an open mic, and then you would perform. Mind you, it wasn't just comics. Some of the public did filter
Sure.
in, but
Right.
for the most part, it's a circle jerk. What are you gonna do?
But that I feel like that little sliver of like it's not just comics.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference.
It does.
Because performing for other comics is like we love making each other laugh, but there's also nothing more exhausting than listening to or like performing in front of a group of people who are dissecting your joke
Yes.
while you're on stage.
That's it. It's,
Like-
it's the stage versus the hanging out difference. Once you get on stage, comics are like,
I mean, I haven't been on stage in ages, but when I was doing it regularly, and even to the point where I had,
in the big city.
yeah, in the big city of Tampa, even to the point where I had gotten jaded and felt like I had some chops, and some respect. Even then, I never understood the like I'm too cool to listen thing, where it's like, no, there's a guy up there. He might be funny.
Yeah.
I want to laugh at the funny man.
Yeah.
Like, why am I in the back with my arms folded? I don't understand that.
I think a lot of it, and this is not just about the Tampa scene, but I think this happens in a lot of scenes in general. Is like you have your class, right? So you and I are in the same class. Chris is in the class before us or whatever. Chris will listen because you're somebody new who he hasn't seen.
I listen
Right.
because I love comedy.
right.
Right.
That's
I
what
love
I'm
the
saying.
art form.
That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
I do.
But
And even when it's bad, I love it.
Yes.
right, but
Maybe
sometimes
more.
better.
Yeah,
Yes.
maybe
sometimes
more.
better.
right, but
I've probably laughed harder at horrible comedy than I have good comedy.
right, but I go. You and I will perform at the same 5 open mics together.
Right. So I'm definitely tuning you out because
Right.
I know your shit.
At this point,
Right.
And
Oh, that makes sense.
Especially when you get to like somebody who it's like, hey man, it's week 8 and you're still performing the exact same jokes from week 1.
Right.
And I've seen you perform every night of the week for 8 weeks.
But that's the purpose of the open mic, right?
It
The
is.
purpose of the open mic is to go through the material until it's tight and you know it works. And every time you do it, it's consistent. You use open mics to break through the inconsistency of your set. And when you get to a headliner spot, you use the middle of your set to try out new jokes and get them consistent. When you're a feature, you do your good stuff. And you don't try out new stuff if you can help it.
No.
You know what I mean? And MCs, just you host a show. There's very distinct parts in each show, and there are places where where if you go to an open mic, I'm not expecting to hear a material at all.
Right.
I mean, my feature Tiffany Barbie, my girlfriend as well. She goes to L.A. and she said she saw the heavy hitters. Tool Time. What's his name?
Tim Allen.
Yeah, Tim Allen. Not doing all that great because why? They're trying out new stuff.
Right.
They're trying, they're working on stuff. So.
You got to respect the fact that Tim Allen has fucking 3 sitcoms worth of money.
Yeah.
And
Right.
he's still out there trying new shit.
Yeah.
He's not just selling $200 tickets doing the shit he did 30 years ago.
But he loves the art.
Yeah, that's fucking impressive.
That's the difference between somebody who loves the art. And again, I love the art, but not enough to pack everything up and go to LA. You know what I mean? There's different levels.
Yeah.
I never sought that out. I just wanted to be a good club comic. I wanted to be solid. I wanted to be good with the audience. I wanted to be one of those guys. I don't go to crowd work. It just happens because I engage people.
I'm just that good.
Well, no, it's not about being good. It's about the engagement. I'm willing to engage. I had a situation in the show the other night where a woman almost got kicked out, and I had to tell the guys, "Listen, stop. It's okay."
Yeah.
I affected her emotionally. It's not the reaction I expected.
Yeah.
Right.
Might not be the one you wanted.
No, I'll take any reaction because I'm open to that.
So going back to
Yeah,
the questions, right?
Yes.
So
you said some combination of words I didn't fully understand about Reddit and AMAs or something.
Right. So there's a thing on Reddit called Ask Me Anything, right? And we posted up one under like one of the podcast subreddits, and we were just like, hey, ask us any questions you'd like to know about comedy, yada yada yada. And one of the questions was about crowd work, which was
Who asked that question, Rafiq?
that was Reddit user ya boy Skinny Peepee.
Your boy's getting pee.
Is that like Skinny Pete from Breaking Bad?
No, I think that's. I think
He
it's
just has a
literally
thin penis.
Yeah,
He just has a thin, okay, got it.
And he just asked for crowd work tips, and I was
Crowd work tips.
right, and I was going to say one of the best crowd work tips I actually ever got was from you.
Shut the hell up.
Because I remember we were at Snappers, and I was trying out a bit that had crowd work in it, and like it just hadn't been doing well.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me that part of my issue was like I am not genuinely interested in the response from the audience.
You just want to get to the punchline.
Right. And that was one of those things that kind of made it click for me of like when you are doing crowd work, the fact is like you are talking to people.
Yeah.
Like it's
They get pissed when you dismiss them.
Right.
Or
And-
dismiss what they said.
right. And it's like you're not having that emotional connection. So like the bit's not going to work as well because like you don't actually want to talk to them. You might as well just write a joke and just move past the crowd work
Right.
bit if you're not actually connecting with them.
Right. Yeah, it's hard. I see a lot of guys trying to lead in with crowd work to get as a segue, right? So and you pinned it. If you're not interested in the response, it's not necessary.
Right.
When I ask a question of somebody in my audience, like I said to you, because I know people are crazy, so I want to hear what the hell they have to say. Because it's always, for me, I don't care how mundane it is, because usually it's either super mundane and funny or super insane. Like I had a woman that said she was a witch one time, and I asked her what she did for her, and she said, I'm a witch.
And you were like,
that was
well,
her job.
let's go,
And I said, no, I said,
show's over. Let's talk about this now.
I know. Well, people were like, whoa, and I'm like, no, I know what she means. She means Wiccan, or she doesn't mean cauldron, with the thing. And I looked at her husband. I was like, "Are you a witch too? Are you a warlock?" That's what he said to me. He goes, "No, I failed the test." So yeah.
So there's a centralized power that grants you witchhood.
Yes,
and he didn't.
that's when I was off to the races. When he said that, I'm like, let's talk about, first of all, what the hell did you do to fail that test? How hard was the test? So
you didn't get a toad, you got a frog. You fucked up.
Right, but here's the thing. Here's the thing about that. When I asked the question and I got the answer, I was so interested in the answer that I had a lot of other questions, which leads to funny shit, because I got questions now. You said something, I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
We need to explore that.
There's something great about that natural, and I feel like that's one of the things comics do well together, that when you're talking about crowd work, that if we could transition that from how we speak to each other to an audience, because comics, we are so opinionated about shit we don't understand that we'll commonly, somebody will ask us a question.
Do you believe that?
I feel so. I feel like there's a lot of times.
What kind of comics are you hanging around? I never say anything about anything that I don't have some sort of understanding about. I would never broach a subject on stage that I don't understand.
No, I'm not talking about on stage. I'm talking about
just in general?
Yeah.
Oh, we just have an opinion about whatever.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
You'll talk to a comic and be like, well, what's your opinion on Afghanistan? Like just outside the club. Right. And somebody will come back and be like, well, obviously Afghanistan is the reason why Biden needs to employ more witches. And you're like, well, do I know a guy who knows a witch?
Yeah. No, I'd be like, are you a warlock, dude? The other tip for the crowd work, I think, would be, and I think this is so important, if you're going to do crowd work, understand that when you ask somebody a question, they may answer the question in a volume not high enough for everybody to hear. So what I do is I'll repeat what they said for the audience.
Okay.
That way the audience is in on the joke, not just you. Because I've seen some comics go back and forth like 3 or 4 times, and the rest of them are like, what did they say? What did they say? So when somebody says, when that guy said, I failed the test, I'm like, you failed the test? Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
You repeat it.
Also, I think maybe this is going too far off the ranch, but psychologically, that whole reflection thing, your therapist reflects back to you, and it makes you rethink what you just said. Yep. So you might actually put that person you're fucking with in a position where they go, wow, did I really just say that dumb shit? And, whatever.
That used to be the case. Not anymore. People just say dumb shit. They don't care what you think about it.
Fair enough.
They don't care. We've gone off the rails, bro.
Yeah, I feel like that's a real social media thing. Just from our generation of I can just state whatever opinion I want, and it's equally as valid. And it's I don't think so, man. That's... It's
interesting you say that. I had this conversation with a guy who used to be... I don't know if you ever met Jim Choquette. He used to... Okay, so I was talking with Jim. Jim is one of those guys that has me. He helped me fix my house, and he's a bit of a handle.
He's one of those guys whose name evokes an emotional reaction.
Hardy Fletcher. Yep. So talking to Jim, but Jim is on this theory that, like you said, it's social media, which I don't disagree with. I agree with that. But I took it a step further, and I said, look, I think it goes even further back. I think it's the phones. I think it's the advent of the phone. I love my cell phone, okay? I love it. But I don't drive watching it. We even with the flip phones, when flip phones came out, I think people just decided, I'm going to be in your business because I have access to you now 24 hours a day. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if it's important. You must listen to me now. And if you don't pick up your phone, I'm going to be angry with you. I'm going to be pissed that you didn't stop what you were doing and give me access to you.
Right. Much like you,
I think cell phones have destroyed romantic relationships.
Well, and let me just finish by saying, for last night, if you watch Bill Maher, his end piece was about that very thing. He talked about the advent of cell phones and then social media and how our smartphones have turned us into assholes. Some of us.
Right.
Some of us.
But there's a whole thing.
A lot of us.
There's a whole thing there where just interacting with a cell phone.
Yeah.
I get that immediate access thing that you're talking about, where people are like, I need access to you right now, whatever you're doing. I don't give a shit.
It's really obnoxious.
But there's become this weird divide where it's for some people, you send out a text message and nobody replies, and you're like, they fucking hate me.
Yeah, they get angry.
And
then it's ego. Ego's all wrapped up in that shit.
Right. But then somebody sends you a text message, and you're like, I'll respond in 5 fucking days. I got shit to do. Whatever, Bill.
Yeah. I have taken on stage, I got a line now, and this will help me copyright it. When people stop me and interrupt me and want to say stuff about what I'm talking about, this happened this weekend, I literally say to them, hey, this is not Facebook. You don't get to leave a comment. The comment section is off. Okay, this is a goddamn live show, and that's it. You don't get to comment on everything because people, that's where they're at now. They'll stop you in the middle of your shit and be like, I had one lady raise her hand. She goes, I have an opinion. I'm like, start a blog. What do you want me to do? I don't care about your opinion right now. Like, I care about your opinion, but not right now. After the show, we can talk or whatever. You can hit me up online, but not while I'm doing my thing.
When I was teaching,
I knew there was something about you.
When I was teaching, every year there was at least one or two kids, and I would have to pull them aside. I had to learn not to humiliate the kids in front of the other kids.
Yeah, that's important.
That's not a skill that I was aware of.
No, that hurts them.
But like, I would have to pull a kid aside at the end of class and be like, "You understand that this isn't a conversation between me and you."
Oh yeah,
right. I'm talking.
They don't.
I'm talking to 24 kids. Like, you can't.
What was the last word in that sentence?
Just,
what was the last word in that sentence?
Kids.
Yeah, exactly. You should start there and work your way back.
Well, you're right.
I have a kid, so
there's
I know.
a reason why I don't teach anymore. That's why I get it.
How old were the kids that you were teaching?
I was doing middle school, which is
that's
a nightmare in and of itself.
Yeah. My son's 6th grade. I thought he was going to die. I don't know what happened to the kids, but man, I had a kid yell at me from a tree. He wanted to
okay, I need more context to that because now I'm just envisioning a kid like in a tree.
Yeah,
it's like I just live up here now. It's like I just
what I like is that I've had so much exposure to kids that I don't need more context.
He's like,
I'm just like, there was a kid in a tree that yelled at me. That's not that's how that goes.
Yeah, man, I had my earbuds and I'm on the phone. I'm waiting for my son. I'm in the car, circle by, park my car and gotta walk around. And he's across the street in a tree. He's a middle school kid hanging around high school. He just got out of middle school. So for some reason, he was off. I don't know what his deal was. He was a wackadoo kid.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess so. Since he's in a tree.
He's climbing trees. He's still a kid. He's in a tree. And he's got his buddy, but they yelled something at me, and I didn't hear them. I'm having a kind of conversation. And as they get closer, he's like, rah, rah, rah. And he starts really being like, come on, I'll kick your ass. And I'm like, what? Like, dude, I'm a full-grown person. What are you talking about, man? I'm not going to fight you.
Did I offend you by my presence?
He says, I said hello to you and you didn't say hello back. I'm like, what are you, like the greeting police? What is your problem, dude? I said, I'm not under any obligation to say hello to you if you say hello to me back. What planet do you live on? Yeah, he was crazy. So then he got down the tree and wanted to raise up on me. I'm like, dude, if you come over here and you touch me, you're going to be... I can't hit the kid. I want to say I'll beat your face in, but I can't because there's a crossing guard there and there's witnesses and whatnot. So I had to basically listen, little man. Right. Like you have to back down. You're like, listen, buddy, I don't think you understand the physics here.
I had like a full... I don't know if this is on topic. I had a full therapy moment recently. I was at the dog park and my dog pooped and I picked it up and threw it away. And you know that guy... that guy who wears Dockers and wants to say funny things to everybody and be everybody's pal. That guy.
I don't know if I met the Docker version of that guy,
but you know who I'm talking about.
The upbeat chipper guy.
Yeah,
who your cynical personality is like kryptonite, right?
So let me clarify. I'm at the dog park. My dog at the dog park.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because you remind me so much of Squidward right now. I don't know why. And you're like, I'm at the dog park. And the Docker guy.
I'm at the dog park with my dog. My dog poops at the dog park.
So what, did you have a problem with that?
I pick it up to throw it away, and this guy walks by, and he's like, oh, he left you a little present, huh? And I was like, yeah. Because I'm just like, yeah, I love it. It's funny how that happens at the dog park.
It's Christmas at the dog park.
So it was literally I just kind of went, yeah, and then threw it away. And then I had is this, I should probably talk to my shrink about this. I'm not real sure what this is. Why did that make me so angry? Why was I such a dick to that guy? Well,
I don't know if you were a dick, but you were short with him.
Yeah.
You were curt.
There's always that weird thing where you're interacting with somebody. I run into this all the time where especially on social media or whatever, or when you're interacting with people and you just act shitty. You don't think you're being shitty, but for me, it tends to be I'm being critical about a thing, or we're at a restaurant and I'm the food's all right, instead of just being oh, and everyone else is oh, this is great, and I'm it's okay. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you a question. How long is it between the time that you think of a response and you give the response?
It's usually like less than a second.
Yeah.
It's usually
That's the problem right there.
What I like is that you clearly knew what his answer was going to be when you asked.
I was 0.5. I think it was like I was going to go 0.05.
Yeah.
but so that,
I've been hanging out with this guy a lot, and I would say a second is being fucking generous. I think the motor is running without a lot of thought.
But that is some. But that's my point. Is that something about myself that I'm trying to change? Because I will have those interactions with people, right? Yeah. And there's always that little thing in your head that goes like, "Hey, buddy, this is why we don't get invited to parties." Like, you understand that, right? Like, this is the reason why.
Yeah, but I've never had that experience with you. I feel like I'm more opinionated than you. I feel like you do a lot more listening. Most of the time, I mean, I'm not hanging out with you obviously on the on the level at the dog park with him, but I feel like, look, we're in a time now where people are super sensitive about everything. Okay, so when I type something in on Facebook, because I love to debate on Facebook, I do. There's a lot of morons on there, but and I don't do Twitter because I just can't stand it, and Instagram can go fuck itself. I can't do it. I can't the whole vanity thing. I did one rant video with the mask thing at the beginning. It was like, oh, it's great, it got a couple thousand, and they're like, do more. I'm like, no, I don't want to do more. I'm not. Right, I don't want to sit in my car every 12 hours and do that.
Blow a blood
He's
vessel.
the mask guy.
Yeah.
But he got famous for being the mask guy.
Right, but I mean, then you see Vic DiPotato, who I've worked with, and he had a viral YouTube thing, and he does great rants, and he's good at it. Devin Siebold, he does the sketches. I just don't want to do that. Yeah, I got a buddy who's a filmmaker. He's like, dude, you'd be great. I'm like, I bet you I would, but I don't want to do it.
Right, yeah.
I don't want to do it.
There's always that thing about art where it's like, there's the thing in which you could fucking rock the world at, but it's like, that's not the art I want to make. I might be the best musician ever, but like, I want to stand on stage and tell jokes.
Well, it's like I said, I hung out with a couple comics who are hell bent on getting famous, and they're like, we got to do this and we got to do. I'm like, no, you have to go do that. I'm not. Right. I don't want to do that. I have a full-time job. Well, I hate the stereotype that if you have a full-time job and you do comedy, somehow you're not taking comedy serious enough. I don't know. A lot of people in the area don't know my history in a comedy in the area, but I had an improv troupe before there were any improv troupes in this area. One Best of the Bay. I had a award-winning sketch comedy show on public access.
Yeah,
I went to California, got an award, and we had a screening.
Mongo Likes Candy, right?
Yeah, Mongo Like Candy. We did one episode and won an award, and then we were like, okay.
We're good?
Just
it was
one
very Larry David. Very Larry David.
Oh, wow.
They were like, you should do another one. We're like, we did one more. We're like,
That's interesting.
So, but I'm saying, then you've got these comments that are like, I have 1,000 Instagram followers. I'm like, do you have any content at all other than 12-second videos where your face turns into a dog, or you trip and it's what are we doing? What's happening?
We were talking about.
I always accentuated all my punchlines on stage like that. I would say something, and then I'd go.
We were talking about this downstairs, but like, I was trying to get into TikTok. I was trying so hard to understand it, and like, I watched like 7 minutes of video, and I was just getting furious because I was like, none of this is content. None of this is
but it is now. You know what I'm saying? Remember, the comedy industry went through a time where the worth of comics was being weighed by how many Twitter followers you have. I have Twitter. I think I've got like 30 tweets. I've had Twitter for like 8 years. I think I've tweeted 40 times. People are following me. I don't know why. What are you doing? I don't tweet shit. You know what I'm saying? The only reason I'm on those is...
butt heads about this a lot because he's very schooled in like internet marketing.
Yeah,
and
great.
My whole philosophy is like, hey, tweet if you feel like tweeting.
Yeah.
We don't need to create this machine where we're just tweeting because we feel like we have to. And I mean, me and him, there's been like 2-3 years of us arguing about that.
Now you're on. Right. You like the Twitter.
So I don't like Twitter because Twitter now is just full of people angry about politics, arguing.
Everything is like that now.
Yeah, it's just
Public supermarket is everybody angry about politics.
Right, yeah, it's like it's like everybody angry about politics, fucking arguing about shit that they don't understand on either end.
Yeah,
it's some guy going, we just need to let everybody into the country, and then some guy going like, nobody should live in the country. We should just lock everyone. And it's like there has to be some kind of in between, man. Like you can't just.
I'm a self-described centrist. that's my horoscope is Libra. Not that I'm like an astrological person, but I always try to see this both sides, and that infuriates people.
It really does.
Infuriates them, dude. Honesty and truth, where you go, I see what you're saying, but you're kind of being a dick too.
Right?
They hate that shit.
Well, pragmatism has no place in ideology.
Well, critical thinking does, though.
Right.
It should.
But, well, yeah, I see what you're saying. But, I am definitely, even now, sometimes guilty of going, like, I refuse to vote for either of them. Yeah. And, like, pragmatically, that's probably not the way to go because you end up with something,
You end up stopped.
Yeah.
Right.
You end up, like, sedentary. There's no movement. There's no energy at
but
all.
It's always that thing where, like, for me, right, you watch people who are ideologically on far ends of either spectrum, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And you talk to them for like 40 seconds and they go, I hate politicians. And then it's like, if we both hate politicians, shouldn't we come together and be like, maybe all of these politicians need to go?
Yeah.
Can't
but
we
here's
just
the
agree on that part?
But here's the problem. If you got rid of all the politicians and then you got all, Joe the plumbers in there, those people would be hated it too. It's the politics that they hate.
The second you're in charge, you're the hated guy.
Well, and I don't even know if it's in charge, but just as soon as you become that focal point, then it shifts again.
Well, and it also shifts. I've been in this situation where where I was, me and Rafiq were the same at work, and then I got promoted above Rafiq, and the relationship changes on both sides. Now I have to protect myself a little and not say as much to him in the lunchroom as I used to.
Yeah.
And now he probably very justifiably is now getting upset about my decisions, and he has to follow my decisions because I've been placed above him. So there's no winning.
But he knows that you answer to somebody above them and so on and so forth. And here's the other thing. It's a great segue to what I wanted to say, which was, you're not a bad person. You didn't become a bad person because you became a politician. You just end up probably with good intentions. You want to make a little more money, maybe get more involved in the company, yada, yada, yada. But there's a stereotype, that's a stigma that's always automatically attached to you because of where you're at. So when people say, I think all politicians, I don't buy that. I think that a lot of politicians want to do the right thing. I think when they get up there, they realize that the game itself is kind of jacked, and they got to play the game if they want to do anything at all, and then they're in the game.
Right. And I feel you on that. My point, though, is like when you have those two ends of the ideological spectrum, and I go, we all can agree we don't like these politicians, so can we have... And this is my obvious failing because I go, can we have a genuine conversation of what we want out of our politicians?
They want no politicians.
Right.
That's what they want.
Anarchy.
Right.
So I'm putting an end to the politics shit right now. Tolkien? Token?
Oh, I was going to say the writer, Tolkien?
So this is from Reddit user Tolkien Token.
Oh, okay.
Tolkien, like the writer Tolkien, but he has a token. He's a
right.
I think it's a weed
token.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a token. I don't care anymore. You guys just watched all interest in trying to understand that just completely leave my body.
No, I'll be thinking about this on the way home. The ride home. Like,
this one. So when we were looking over the questions, there were two that I said, well, these will be the whole podcast. What are the best comedy films every comedian should watch?
Oh, God.
That's right. That's the immediate, oh, no. That moment, that feeling.
All comedians?
Well, yeah, good point.
I mean, I can bring up the ones that I like, and they may or may not. I mean, because, listen, I have an improv background, so any film that has an improv element, an improvisation element, I'm into. So Spinal Tap, obviously, to me, is up there. But then I like some indie films. Like I like Vince Vaughn and Favreau's second film, which was called Made.
Yes, I haven't seen that in a long time.
I just think that's a brilliant fucking film.
It's
so good. So funny.
Would you call that one a comedy? I felt like that was more of a drama with some comedic characters in it.
I could see that characterization. I think that I think it was a sarcastic comedy. We'll put it that way. Not a. It was like something, like I would think that you would be into. Something that's sarcastic and kind of edgy and kind of like get out of my face. So Vince Vaughn is just he's an underrated sort of fellow that way. I know. I've got a very strong feeling about you already.
Well, okay, maybe.
No, I'm kidding.
No,
especially when you said, all right, you know what? Politics, done.
It's not even it's not even that I disagree with you or that it makes me angry. It's like, oh shit, what if he's right? It's more that.
It's more to talk about with your therapist.
Yep.
Another session.
Just put that note on my phone.
What was the one with it was Adam Sandler, Jonah Hill, there were comedians.
I know what you're talking about.
I don't think I've ever seen
and
that.
Seth Rogen becomes like his protege.
Yes.
That movie, Funny People? Is it called
Yes,
Funny People?
yes.
Yeah.
So to me that's a great one because it's one of those things where like I saw it after I had started doing comedy, and it's one of those films for me where you start seeing like the bit characters, like the.
So are we talking about movies about stand-up comedy?
No,
I misunderstood
The question is what are the best comedy films every comedian should see?
I see.
And to me, I go like it's a funny movie, but for me as somebody in comedy, watching characters go around in the background where you're like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
That guy is at every club.
If you've been in comedy for any length of time, that movie is like, oh, I do this. This is a movie about me.
Punchline was that first movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it with Tom Hanks.
It's been a long time. I saw it when I was very young.
They got some really funny, like this. Some of the ancillary comics are really funny. Like the guy that does the "You don't want carpet."
Right,
that dude, hysterical.
Oh, that was
so funny.
Negron.
Yeah, he's
Taylor
so
Negron.
funny. Yeah,
he died.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. See how he got happy when he said that?
I did not.
He was like, "There's a space for me
He did
now."
smile. He smiled after.
I think I smiled at my knowledge. I was going to drop knowledge. I'm going to say stuff they don't know.
If that's the way you want to justify it, dude, you justify it how you need to.
I would go. So now, right, the teacher in me, right? So now I'm building my curriculum of comedy films, right? I would go with like teaching you what comedy looks like. Meaning, I would throw Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Yep.
The rhythm of the way they talk to each other,
right.
and the the setups and the punchlines.
Right.
Then I would do like Ghostbusters, probably. Quick Change, 100%.
Quick Change? I don't think I've ever seen
that. Is fix that tonight. It's Bill Murray co-directed it. It is his best
Quick
movie.
Change. What's the?
He starts the movie robbing a bank dressed like a clown.
I've seen it. Yeah, good movie. Yeah.
Every time I watch that movie, I laugh my ass off. I've seen it a zillion times.
One of my films that I like is like that. It's older. It's called Last of the Red Hot Lovers. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Alan Arkin. It's an amazing film.
So I didn't actually get to watch the whole thing. I was on a flight and it was like being played on one of those little built-in like screens for the guy next to me, and I kept on trying to be like, "Oh, that looks good," but like you can't really like bother a person in the middle of the flight to be like, "Hey, what are you watching?" Yeah. Like, I know this is kind of weird that I'm kind of leaning over your shoulder to watch what you're watching.
I thought you were the guy that was obnoxious and just said whatever.
Oh yeah, I am obnoxious, but I keep that shit.
Not on a plane though.
I keep that shit out of punching range. Like that.
That's good.
Smart. Yeah, the premise is that he's a midlife crisis. He's a fishmonger. He sells fish. And he just plays it brilliantly, and it's like 4 vignettes of him taking random women back to his mother's apartment while she's out somewhere to try to have an affair on his wife, and it never goes off. It's hysterical, and each character's it's really funny.
So if you're building a curriculum, which is what I'm trying to do now in my brains, I think it's important to put in things that maybe you don't even like, because you're trying to teach comedy. Right. So
what was the question again?
Every comic should see.
Okay.
I'm gonna make them watch Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. I'm making them watch Ghostbusters. I'm making them watch.
You didn't like Ghostbusters.
I love Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay.
It's my favorite.
You did
movie.
not like Abbott and Costello.
I haven't gotten to the movie I don't like yet.
I'm just in my brain. I'm checking them off.
All 3 of those films are films that I highly endorse.
Okay.
I would definitely include one of the modern babbly improv. Who's the guy who did the new Ghostbusters? What's that guy's name?
Are you talking about like
the director?
Actor? Oh, I don't know.
That guy who works with Melissa McCarthy a lot.
Yeah.
I don't like those movies.
Me neither.
But I would put one of those in there.
Would you?
As a teaching tool. As like...
What not to do?
No. As a like, why... What about this is effective? You know, like...
But was it?
They do well, don't they?
Do they? I don't know.
I mean, I don't think Ghostbusters specifically did well, but like Paul Feig is his name.
Okay.
Bridesmaids was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, some of the other ones with Melissa Carthy's running around with a gun.
You're talking about movies that like they may not make you in particular laugh, but they may
personification
sell well.
of a buddy film. Was the Wedding Crashers, or the improvisational aspect. I know what you're saying, where it's not really, it's the banter back and forth,
right? And banter to the point. A guy like, you know, I'm not the first person to say this, and he and I have had this conversation, but you know, for me, when you want to talk about original Ghostbusters versus new Ghostbusters, the line is, this is the only argument, is when she opens the door in the original and goes, picking up or dropping off.
Nice.
And then, I mean, I smile inside saying that.
Yeah.
That is a hilarious joke.
Oh, it's the whole movie.
She opens the door, sees a cop with a crazy man, and just immediately goes, picking up or dropping off. I mean, that's fucking hilarious.
Right. Yeah. No, the whole movie it's well written.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that the new one was at all.
But I would include, because I mean, there are fans of the new one. There are people who like that babbly, going nowhere dialogue.
You know what about those? They wear Dockers. All those
those are the kind of guys that are shocked when a dog shits in the dog park.
Hey, present. Bill Murray in a taxi. Oh, call back. Yeah, I know that dude.
Well, I really thought we'd get more juice out of that one. Well, I guess, honestly, I think...
See, he's so disappointed. That was like 10 minutes of banter.
I think the problem is...
The wording?
Comedians should watch. Like, it's too...
Well, look, here's
one guy's going to say Caddyshack. I don't like Caddyshack.
So I love
think
Caddyshack.
It's funny.
So,
okay.
Right.
You know?
But as a comedian...
Yeah.
But there are certain... I mean, at least for me, there are certain films where I go, like Blazing Saddles.
Yep.
I go, even if you're not a comedian, everybody should watch Blazing Saddles.
Right.
And if you are a comedian, you should definitely watch Blazing Saddles just to understand that writing.
I could say this. I could say Gummo is a good film. You ever seen Gummo? Exactly.
I don't even know what that is.
Exactly. It's a sort of pseudo documentary about the guy that did. His name is I forget the director's name, but he did Kids was his first film. With Chloe Sevigny was in that. I'm a film buff like you, but it's all subjective, isn't it? There are parts that to me are hysterical. I know that they are super awkward for normal people. They're like, oh my God.
I think I know what movie you're talking about now.
Yeah, it's basically an Ohio town, and it's a character study, and it's got some real actors, and then he went and picked a bunch of people from around the town that are, at one point there's rednecks in a kitchen beating the shit out of a chair. I mean, they're drinking and they're just screwing around, and it's really weird. I think it's hysterical, but I've showed it to somebody and they're like, this is a really weird movie. And I'm like, it's funny as hell, man. It's I don't think it's meant to be a comedy, but it's just, again, character study.
Well, and I think there's also a question of like, this again may be too far off the range, but
here we go.
There might be. I think there's a question of like, there's a movie called Daddy and Them, and it's a dark Southern. It comes from the dark Southern literature tradition. Is the word I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. It's just zany Southern characters and their zany Southern lives, and there aren't necessarily jokes. But these people are so goofy.
Right.
You know, it's Billy Bob, I think, wrote and directed it. And at the beginning of the movie, I mean, it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And I can definitely see how you could show it to somebody else and they'd be like, what's funny about that?
Yeah.
He's in a convenience store and he's just trying to like talk the guy down on the price. And finally he just leans in and you can see he's so defeated. He's like, you don't understand, man. My wife, she's just buying stuff all online all the time. I got all these packages coming in, man. You don't even know what I'm living through. Dude, it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And I can definitely see how someone would go, well, where's the joke? Like, you don't see how fucking hilarious that is?
Well, they can't, you know what it is? They can't connect with it. It's not true to them, right?
Right.
And that's what happens in stand-up. Like the other night, this doesn't happen to me very often. Rafiq will tell you, I'm pretty consistent when I'm on stage. I feel like that's the point that you need to get if you want to make money, doing any money at all, real.
Right.
Be consistent, right? But every now and again, You know, it just
One's
doesn't hit. But I had a woman stand up at a table and she just announced it to her table. I'm just not into him. I don't know. I just don't really like him that much. And then she walks out. I'm like, why couldn't you do that in your head? Well, why did you do that out loud? How often are you at a movie where somebody just gets, I'm just not really into this movie. I'm out of here.
See, and that's the reason why Mark Zuckerberg invented Facebook, because he was like, hey, just put that online.
Right. But that's my point.
Like,
even that old lady, because she was old, we were at the Villages, she's on Facebook because she's allowed, right? And so she's on there, and she just decides she's going to leave a Facebook comment in the middle of my show and then block me.
In real life.
That's what she and just so for context, she came back later, and I had her laughing, so it was all good. But that's when the other lady melted down, so it was all good. Thank you, Henrietta, for ruining my show the other night.
I like the fact that you know the name.
Oh, man.
Like,
oh, baby.
Like, you're like, I'm going to build a friendship just so I can remember this person.
Well, real quickly, I do a bit about, it's a very honest bit about, I'm separated from my wife, and now I'm dating another comedian. All right, and and she's young. She's like in her mid-30s, and I'm 55. So I talk about how, you know, when you're a gentleman my age and you get a young girlfriend, it's sketchy because the young guys are still buzzing around your girlfriend, and you got everything's got to be correct because the universe only gives you like 1 or 2 young girl shots in your life. Right. You get like That's 1 or great. 2, and if you screw it up, it's straight to the Villages with your ass. That's, you know, and then you're doing hot tub parties and STDs and all that crap, right? So I do the joke. It goes over pretty well. And I can see her seething over there, and she's talking to the man. She's just pissed, and I'm like, "You all right?" And at this point, we're on a first name basis. And I said, "Henrietta, are you okay?" No, I'm kind of pissed off about what you said. I'm like, "Why? Why?" So you just went and picked a young girl, and I looked at her. I was like, "No, I got lucky. I got lucky. I didn't do that on purpose."
I hate that so much.
Oh.
That thing of like, she has a brain. She also picked me. Is it my fault that she's 25? Like, I didn't.
Well, she acted like she was 17. I'm like, relax, lady.
But also, it's like, okay, even if she's 25, like, I didn't go into the world and go, all 25-year-olds surround me. Like,
as if. I wish I could pull that off. When she said that, I was like, I would date an older woman or old woman. When I said old woman, the audience was like, oh, and I'm like, and I'm in the Village. I'm like, look around, okay, relax.
Right, yeah, I would date one of you.
Well, my girlfriend came up with a great response because she's a comedian. She's brilliant. She says what she would have said was Exhibit A, you know, because that's why I don't date somebody your age. She was awful, and she was seriously upset. And I'm like, relax. It's okay.
That is always the thing.
Go get a young girl. Because, you know, you just go to the young girl store and you go get one.
And I said to her, listen, if what you're suggesting is that I break up with her to trade up to an older woman, that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen, okay? I'm not going to do that for you or anybody. Like, goddamn, I won the lottery right now. Unbelievable, man. So, yeah, again, the nerve that she had to be like, let me stop you and tell you how I feel. Which, again, I said, look, I'm flattered that you were, you know, emotionally affected. Just, I wish you wouldn't be so pissed off about it.
Do you want to do one more of these, or do you want to go to Ed?
I think we have to go to Ed.
We have to go to Ed.
Who's Ed?
So,
oh God.
We have a segment on our show where we like to introduce people to
whatever's in his bag.
Don't tell him too much.
We like to introduce people to a unique individual who has won our hearts and mind.
I just looking at it, I just like my spirit.
Do I need my glasses?
I don't want to do this. Okay,
you might need.
I mean,
glasses,
I don't know if you need glasses to see. Just you can go ahead and react to what you see. Tell us how you feel about it. He's already laughing.
Ed the Machine Regine. Tech tells 100 of the funniest jokes he's ever heard of.
He's ever heard.
Right.
Not that he wrote.
Yeah. That he's ever heard. What the fuck? Ed the Machine.
Just let it wash over you.
Is there a picture on the inside of the disc? Or is
no,
it
but
like
you
this?
need to look at the disc.
That's what I was saying. Is there? Where is the disc?
It's in there.
Oh, I got to slide it out.
No, it's an opener.
Okay.
Yeah, it came like that. Let me.
Holy shit.
Well,
Jesus Christ, Ed! Do I need a machine to get your CD out? Holy shit! How many? Oh, there's 100, right?
100. Look at the disc.
Allan, make him laugh. Did you meet this person?
This was bought for me as a present. a not ironic present. This was a present bought out of love.
Hold on. I got to get... Can you hand me my bag? I got to get my bag because I got to read some of these jokes, the titles of some of these jokes. I'm just curious. Wow.
So...
Have you looked this person up?
Yes, we have.
Why don't you have him on the show?
We would love to have Ed on the show.
He's like, no way.
Allan's
Here's the problem. I have no love for it. It would be. It
don't
wouldn't
have to have love for
I
him.
think Rafiq would be sincerely like warm about it. Hey, thanks for coming.
Oh
I would
my
be like,
God, dude.
I would be like, Ed, you fucking explain yourself.
Well, before we get into what your resentment's all about, let me. Driving to Chicago. Okay. Married 50 years. That sounds like my set. Shit. 3 Roses, Eating Habit, Soft Boobs. Wow.
Oh, we probably haven't heard that one.
Magic Mirror,
possibly.
Honeybee. Where was the one I there was one that I was like, what the shit?
So one of the magical thing about Ed is that Ed has taken 100 of the funniest jokes that he's ever heard from an NPR joke book.
Is it seriously an NPR joke book?
No, we're pretty.
It's street jokes, many of which I heard when I was a child. Like I've actually spit the punchlines out before.
Wow.
Most of the
That's a great face.
yeah,
Though.
most of the tracks.
That's a cartoon head right there. Yeah. Sorry, Ed, but you got a cartoon head.
I want to
nice
get through
hair.
this quickly because anyone who listens to our podcast has heard me say this 100 times. The tracks are mostly out of order on the inside.
They don't match the
Most of them don't. He's actually done really well in the last like 12, 13. They've all actually been the right ones, but for the most part, they're not what they actually say they are. Here.
So it will be
there was at
soft
least-
boobs, and then the joke starts off with, so a priest walks into a bar.
That'd be the 3-piece. That's the 3-piece joke.
Yeah, and you're like,
which I'm very familiar
none
with.
of these match.
And so somebody bought this. How much they pay for that?
That I don't know. But this was a sincere present bought out of love, and I've made
From a
fun
family member?
From a family member that I have made fun of ever since.
Nice.
On our podcast.
So
You got a close family.
And let me see. What else did I want to tell you? Oh, there's been at least one, if not 2 tracks that weren't complete. The halfway through the joke, it just cut off and moved on to the next. You'll hear him trip over there's no second take. He'll be in the middle of the joke and like stumble over.
Well,
a
he
word
did it on his phone.
and just keep going.
yeah,
He did it on his phone.
It sounds like a studio,
he
It
has.
does?
Yeah, he has.
or
a,
at the very least, a nice mic, plugged into a laptop.
he has a parental advisor stickery on there, so
That he put himself, I'm sure.
So he won't say he'll say the word fuck, but at the wrong time.
He'll say make love, like he won't say fucking, but it'll be like, but then the guy gets in the fucking car. Like, that's not where the fucking goes.
Right, yeah. Like,
It is if you're from New York.
And he'll say, oh.
I mean, yeah,
What? Is he from New York?
possibly.
Yeah. Did you look him up? Is he still touring?
He
was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh.
He is the waiter in Once Upon a
There's
Time.
I met a guy like this. I swear to God, I met a guy like this, and not to get on politics, don't get your titties in a twist. I'm a central liberal person, but whatever, who owns guns. I'm an enigma to the entire country. But I met a guy that it's chided me online and then had me come on his podcast, and he had a bit part in Cape Fear, and that was his claim to fame. He was a biker in a bar in Cape Fear that De Niro walked in, and this guy's like, "Oh, I'm in the business." I'm like, "Get the hell out of here!"
That's Ed.
On his website, there are several pictures of him with famous comedians.
Yeah.
But clearly it's
I got a few.
because he clearly went to their show.
Yeah, I got
and
one with
took
Mitch
a
Patel.
picture with them afterward.
Right.
Now, I'm starting to question. We found a clip of him on Jay Leno
Okay.
in like 2008, way later than it should be.
Doing stand up.
No, it was like, what's the Jay Leno show like in India? And Ed the Machine is playing the Indian version of Jay, doing a very, very, very racist accent.
In brownface.
But look at him.
Yeah.
There might be some Indian in there.
Yep.
Take a good look at the guy.
No, yeah, yeah.
And that was the
But
thing.
you know what, Alan? You hate him, so you'll never know what the truth is about him. I would embrace Ed and bring him into the... I know you wouldn't. That's why I'm telling you what I would do. I know exactly what you would do.
After I hit play, you too will no longer embrace him. Because
we talked about how we like shitty comedy, right? I thought you were being serious. You're not being serious. Okay.
I love... Some of the hardest I've ever laughed at a show has been when somebody was just eating their balls or when they said something horrible.
Have you ever seen Ed the Possum Man?
No, but I want to.
Yes.
Greg Bates.
I do know Greg Bates.
Okay,
Is
so-
that
so-
Ed the Possum Man? Is
No,
he-
two different people.
Okay.
Because one's named Greg and then one's Ed. And so...
The way you said that,
I know.
it was as if it was a character. he
I
was
see.
playing.
No, Greg Bates is different, and Greg Bates actually has a medical condition that makes him like he is. So
He's awesome.
And he gets, but it's it's
I've
hokey
had
shit.
I've had the opportunity to introduce him, and
Greg,
I always like what's the word I'm looking for? Kindly prep the audience. Like
Yeah.
I don't do it in a this guy sucks way. I do it in a like
Yeah.
I will say things like, hang on, just be with him. This guy's funny, like I just let him know.
The last guy
this
that brought me
guy's
up did that to me.
awesome. Uh-oh.
That sounded really familiar.
Whoa.
I think that may be why Henrietta was on edge. Yeah. So we're going to listen to a couple of bits?
Yeah,
Are they long jokes or are they just like one-liners?
This one's 26 seconds long.
Wow.
Or 33. This one's 33.
100 of them.
So we're
Yes.
actually on 50 now.
Okay.
Oh, you're going in order.
Yeah, and we're listening to them the same time you are.
So you've not listened to the other
we
50.
we have
No.
we'll listen to 1 through 49
Nice.
with other comics.
Perfect.
Now we are all listening to 50
Okay.
together. It is called Craft Market.
Craft Market.
This couple is on vacation and they're walking through a craft market.
Hey.
And they notice a guy selling sandals. So the wife says to the husband, honey, let's take a look at these sandals. They go over and the sales guy says to them, look, these are the best sandals ever. You buy these and you'll have the greatest sex you've ever had in your life. They're better than Viagra. They are the greatest. The wife says, honey, try them on. And the guy goes, oh, what have I got to lose? Tries the sandals on, and as he puts them on, he gets this urge to go after the guy selling them, starts ripping his clothes off and wants to make love to him. And the guy selling them is yelling out, you got him on the wrong feet.
He made him
A
gay
woman
because they
buys
were
a
on the wrong
full-length
feet.
mirror.
Did you get it?
I got it.
Did you?
Now, you don't like Ed anymore, do you?
I do.
No.
I don't have a problem with that.
So,
Do a few more.
out of the gate. Out of the gate.
At a yard sale. Takes her home,
Shut up,
puts it
Ed.
in-
He did that thing out of the gate.
I think Allan is done with that.
Oh, I am done. I'm not kidding.
What number was it?
That was
Allan?
number 50.
No. What number was it when you were done with him? 3? 5? 10?
The first episode we did, the first time we did this guy, it was just he and I.
Yeah.
And it was like, here we go. It was the second episode of this podcast.
That's great.
We were like, let's go through this thing.
That's great.
Both of us, we got to like 6.
Yeah.
By the end of it, both of us were like, fuck this guy.
You guys are so jaded.
Here's my thing with Ed.
We had a comic go, hey, I thought we were friends when we played this shit. Rafiq, your thing with Ed.
My thing with Ed is Ed exhausts me because I
Yes.
go the street jokes. I go, this is like I get it. If you want to do it on stage, that's one thing. It's
Yeah.
fine, easy palate cleanser, fine.
Yeah.
Right. But like listening to them on a CD in a row exhausts my spirit.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also, sorry, go ahead.
But with Ed, there's a certain point where I have listened to so much of Ed that I have gone all the way through hatred to come back around to I love this guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we had him in the studio, Ed would receive vibrant rainbows from this guy and
Right.
just venom on this side.
Rafiq went through the same experience and trajectory that I did with Billy Joel. The same exact thing. Came right back around.
There's a certain point where you go like, I can't stand this. To be like, isn't this great? Isn't this the best? Is it listening to a guy who's done brown face Indian jokes on Jay Leno do street jokes the best?
I just-
like,
I mean,
It's for me, I can't get there. Maybe one day I will. I would argue you've reached a point of delirium, to be honest. But for me, it's the so just in that joke. He goes, I'm not even going to play it again because I'll die if I do. But it was like, he said, the guy sells sandals. So the husband's like, look at the sandals. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, too many words.
Just get the guy from
Too many words.
sandals to purchase.
Yeah.
Stop with the fucking crap in the middle. For a joke that wasn't worth it, even if you concised it, it's going to suck no matter how you get there.
I have one street joke that I tell, and I don't tell it every show. But you got to take out the fluff.
So
make it good.
One of the best things, at least to me, about the CD is like it feels like somebody told Ed, I need a CD that's an hour long right? It's got to be at least an hour. And Ed was like, well, I got this NPR joke book. So if I just add a couple more words to every bit, then like that's got to be an hour, right?
No. You are wrong.
Yeah.
This is Ed's recipe book. That's what this is. This is a coffee table book in CD form for Ed. And he put all of his favorite recipes into one CD. And some of them are crap. Obviously, Allan's palate is overdone.
You could not have been more accurate about that assessment.
Thank you.
Also,
That's crowd work.
I love the starry-eyed naivete that you think this CD was commissioned by another person.
That's funny.
That somebody
Contacted
approached Ed for this.
With money.
Look, all I'm saying is he has to have a manager someplace, or else how could he get on to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right?
Go to an open casting call, man. I have friends that were in Any Given Sunday. They didn't have a casting agent. They drove to Miami and stood in line, bro. People do, they do shit.
All right.
That's funny.
All right.
Let's do another one.
51. He's been on a roll with the correct tracks.
Yeah.
But here's what I've been saying. So many have been incorrect up to this point that it's going to have to swing back around. Because he's got the incorrect titles on one side and the correct titles on the other. You know what I mean?
So he's going to lap himself.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So this one might be about a magic mirror.
Maybe.
A woman buys a full-length mirror at a yard sale. She takes it home and puts it in her bedroom. One day she's coming out of the bathroom and she stands in front of it and she grabs her boobs and said, "Boy, I wish these were bigger and firmer." And boom, just like that, they got huge and firm. She told her husband what just happened, and he ran in front of the mirror and said, "Boy, I wish my penis could touch the floor." And bang, just like that, his legs fell off.
See, what happened was, instead of his penis growing, he touched his legs, so now his penis can touch the floor.
You know I work in comedy, right?
I did. I was just making sure you got the
Why would you
subtlety and nuance.
You know how street jokes. That's how street jokes work. They're pretty obvious. You don't really need like.
I hate him.
You really do
so much.
Why? Okay, so that's why. What is it about this? What is it about the? Because listen, I see this. Let me just say, I feel like it's an innocent thing, but tell me why it hurts you so in your soul. This gift.
Why it hurts me? That's not what I thought you were going to ask.
Well, why you have so much resentment towards Ed, the machine?
Okay,
Regine.
All right, I'm going to do my best to. All right, you ever watch The Human Tornado, the movie? Rita Ray Moore?
No.
It's the sequel to Dolomite.
No.
It's so bad it's good.
Okay.
It's the acting is terrible and the direction doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And, it's
so you hate it because it's bad comedy.
You stay with me. That movie is one of my favorite movies. If you hang out with me for any length of time, you will watch The Human, because I'm like, no, we're gonna watch this.
Okay, I've seen Dolomite. I have not seen
Dolomite's the same way.
Yeah,
it's just dog shit, but it's
70s cinema.
It's beautiful dog shit. But then there's that movie that's so bad it just makes you angry. You're like, this there's no excuse for this.
So he feels attacked. You feel attacked by Ed.
Yeah,
you do.
But it's also like
it's great content because you're angry.
I think there's a degree of like the fucking balls in this guy to have produced this.
We live in an age where people can do whatever they want. Have you been on Instagram?
Right. But I think the difference is this is not a guy pointing his own camera at his face on the toilet. This is like, I went and did this.
Yeah.
I printed a fucking label.
Yeah, on
my
Epson printer.
And I got the names all wrong. And I got, and then I went and performed on a cruise and sold this to somebody else.
Wait a second. You left out the cruise part. So, but was his act all these?
Nope.
So he did another act.
He does an act that we have investigated. And I will say this reluctantly.
He's a cruise comic.
He's not that bad.
That's why you're upset. You're upset because this is shit and his act is good.
His act does
I knew I could get to the fucking
I'll say this.
crux of it.
The three people in this room would probably not laugh at his act. But when you watch him, he gets a great response. The crowd fucking loves him. He's got rhythm.
Because we're full of dumb people in this country.
He's got rhythm.
They don't require much.
He's got charisma. He's got
Stage presence.
Wacky
He's got presence.
facial expressions.
Yeah.
He's a real comic.
Yeah.
And the fucking balls on him to make this.
Every real comic does that. He's singing.
This? Did you? Tim the Toolman never did this shit.
I defend it because when I print my own DVDs, I don't have a company fucking do it. And guess what? I put the parental advisory sticker. I don't put one on there. But if I did, I'd do it myself, number one.
No, that's not my problem.
You did. You said, hey, look at that sticker on there. He put the parental sticker right on there himself.
because that's part of the joy of how shitty this is. You're a pro comic with...
So is he.
Listen, you're a pro comic with chops, and you're going, this is what I do. Would you like to purchase this? This is, I'm a pro comic with chops, but I would rather dick around in a studio telling jokes that weren't funny the first time and fucking them up and not doing a second take and getting the fucking order wrong on the CD.
This is why he moved up to the next level in your company. That right there.
Yeah.
This is why. He's like, listen, this is all shit. I don't know what you're fucking doing here, but you need to step up the productivity and get rid of this whole fucking organizational bullshit because it's ass backwards and you're going to lap yourself. You're fucking lapping yourself right now.
He's got that zeal to just fucking like push the guy out of the way. And
I feel like, listen, I feel like this about comics because I've seen a lot of shitty comics, dude. I've had shitty comics open for me and blah, 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 blah. Anybody that can get up on stage and do it, I give you props for that. And all the rest is who the fuck knows, dude. I mean, there's so many different levels. There are guys, listen, there are people that got nominated for Best of the Bay that I feel like really Best of the Bay, the best comedian in the whole Bay, and they get nominated because people like them. They're popular. They got good stage presence, whatever it is.
Own a computer.
Exactly. They're printing shit out. They got fucking posters. They got the fucking swag and all that shit.
Yeah, but they are not releasing 100 shitty street jokes that you stumble through and add a bunch of
I've not heard any stumbling, first of all. I've heard you have maybe, but the last three...
And you keep adding... There was a joke early on where he goes, a white guy, a Chinese guy, and a whatever. By the end of the joke, their ethnicities had nothing to do with where the joke went.
Just wanted to keep you informed of the immigration status of the joke.
So do you see the seething? I need him to answer
I think
for
it's
this.
fucking great.
I need him to answer
I think
for
that's
this.
hysterical. No, he won't. So he won't come on. You can't get him on.
Well, we've never tried.
You should try to get him on. I think it would be funny as shit.
We've said so much vicious shit about this guy. I don't know.
But he doesn't know.
Yeah,
well, you're right.
He's still printing his stuff off that thing.
I want to get through the CD first before we try to get him on. Just so that way we can be like, we had it on. We could either end the podcast here or we could try and do.
Where do you go from there? Now you have to get the president on. Like, you can't.
Alan's afraid. Alan's afraid he's going to end up in court afterwards.
You know what my sincere, genuine fear would be? Is that if we got him in this room, that I would start being really nice and I wouldn't confront him the way he needed to.
You pussy.
I know.
You're the problem, Alan.
Uh-huh. That's why I yell about him in a way that he can't respond to. Haven't you figured it out yet?
Now I know the politics comment makes sense now. He's like, I'm out. I'm not going to do it. That's.
I was actually trying to preserve the show.
Oh, it's okay. I don't talk politics. I do talk. I love to talk politics, but I don't get bent out of shape about it. I know other people do, but I just love a lively debate. I had somebody before say, well, you like to argue. I'm like, you're on Instagram arguing with people that comment about your video because there was a car that had flies. What are you talking about? I like to have conversations. I like to explore ideas. I'm not arguing for the sake of arguing. I would never do that.
There's always that thing where you're communicating with somebody who genuinely just doesn't want to have a conversation. And it's like, hey man, why are you even doing this? Like, it's pointless for both of us. Like, you could just call me, you could just say fuck you, and then we could both move on with our day.
Well, that's the crowd work thing too. To go back to the question about crowd work, that would be my third tip. Would be, if you start to do crowd work with somebody and they look like they're not into it, don't push it. Move on. Leave them alone.
Yeah,
because it's not going to end well. All you're going to do is piss them off. The audience is going to feel like you're a jerk. You know what I mean? So
Have you seen the last Jeff Garland special?
no.
I can't remember what it's called. It's on Netflix. But he starts, poking around in the audience.
Yeah.
And he just finds this guy. And, I mean, there's no way it could have been staged. It could have been. But essentially,
Probably
he finds
not.
a guy sitting with a girl. They've known each other since college. But now they're like, in their 30s and they're friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as the guy says, well, we've known each other since college, Garland's like, oh. And let's say her name is Julie. He goes, Julie, you don't even know. Your name is in lights in this guy's head. And he spends the next good 6 minutes constructing this whole scenario where he fell in love with you in college, but you were dating someone else, but then you broke up because he was an asshole. So then he thought he could move in, but then something happened. He had to go back home for Thanksgiving. And by the time he came back, you had another guy. And dude, I mean, it feels like prepared material, and all he got out of that was, we've been friends since college.
Yeah.
That took him on this whole tapestry journey that he just created in front of the audience. It's fucking amazing.
I did that about 6 months ago with a guy that lived in the woods. Well, he did. They live out off of the river, and I got hired to this private party. And he had cancer.
So I was walking through the woods, and I saw this guy, and I just started riffing.
Yeah, we were at the Koa campground. I know I got hired to his birthday party. He was dying of cancer. And so his wife hired me. And it was funny because before the show started, I said, oh, is that your husband? She said, yeah. I said, does he like comedy? No, not really. I do. And I'm like, oh, great.
Good present for the man who's dying of cancer.
Yeah. So I get to stand there by the tent.
I wonder why he has cancer. Because he's been dealing with that shit for 30 years.
It was something else.
It's like, hey, honey, for one of your final memories, do you just want to be miserable for like an hour, maybe an hour?
He's never
30?
gone on vacation where he wants to go. He had the number of kids she said. He didn't.
He was, they lived on the river, and I tried to do the little crowd work, and he was kind of hesitant and everything. So I did the same thing. I just started making shit up. I'm like, I remember the last time I found out about Barbara. I remember when I went on, I found out about Bob, and he came to the mouth of the Delta River on a raft that he constructed out of logs, or just all this stuff. And he came down, and then he met Tanya, and together they fashioned this lovely home out of redwood and spruce and some, air plants and just all this bullshit, dude. They fucking loved it. But I call it, I have a name for it. The storytelling, and then also looking at somebody and just making an assumption. I call it assumptive stereotyping. I stereotype people based on what I see. It's dangerous. It's not a racial thing. It's more of a what kind of clothes, what sort of economical
mannerisms.
Yeah, well, how do they look rich? Do they look country? Do they look urban? Do they look country? Whatever it is, I try to figure it out. I've been right quite a few times. Picked a few attorneys out.
Yeah.
Let me just say that.
Oh wow,
attorneys stand out for. I don't know what it is with my brain, but I'm like, attorney.
It's that their hair is so perfect. It kind of looks like it's glued on. You know what I mean? It's like they have a machine that presses their hair on their head every morning.
It's interesting about Ed. Going back to Ed.
Do we have to?
Yeah, because I think it's an interesting dichotomy. Ed is the last of this dying breed of comedians that thinks that the racial stereotypes are still okay. And with they make jokes about gay people because I wouldn't want to be gay.
Right.
Kevin Hart stepped into that clearly.
Right.
So and I used to do a joke where I'd say, what kind of car do you drive? And they'd be like, oh, Prius. And I'd be like, hey, and I'd go, you fag. Mm-hmm. And I didn't mean it in a gay way. I meant like you dork. You know what I'm saying? But somebody said, hey man, you're emasculating this person. You're not. And I'm like, get the fuck. I was like totally Bill Burr. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And then I thought about it. I thought, maybe not that word.
I think it was just before the pandemic, I was working on a bit where I was talking about that because we had done this thing for Tampa News Force where publicity event, bunch of dudes dancing in their underwear on the street, holding up signs for Tampa News Force. Yeah. They were supposed to be doing an interview, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing that caught my mind in that situation is I realized how much things have changed because some dude pulled up next to us and said, hey, you fat faggot, right? And I was so upset, not because he had called me a faggot, but because he had called me fat. And I was like, that's how I know things have changed, because in the 90s, you would fight a dude.
Oh, yeah. That's...
you would murder a dude because he called you that.
Yeah.
And like,
Right.
now I'm like, oh, like, dude, like,
used
I
to
know
have-
so many cool gay people. Like, why couldn't you call me that? Like,
I used to have a bit, and I don't even know how relevant this bit is anymore, but I used to have a bit about how I've had multiple gay friends who have told me they thought I was bisexual.
Yeah.
And the crux of the bit was like, you know, there was a time in my life that would have really fucked me up. But I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe you know something I don't. Who cares? If I'm bisexual, okay, fine. Sometimes I fuck dudes too. Who cares?
Yeah,
you
I
know?
got a crowd work bit that's on YouTube where I say to a guy, I'm like, you know, how many? I used to say this on my show. How many people think I'm gay? Because it happened a lot, and people would applause. And I was like, "What the fuck?" You know, like that. And I'm like, even the gay guy thinks I'm fucking gay. You know, I don't do that bit anymore. But in retrospect, I'm like, But my sketch comedy thing that I did, I was in different groups. So I had an improv troupe called the Charming Hooligans. We opened for Dave Chappelle at USF, doing improv comedy like Whose Line Is It Anyway with video sketches. Right? We had taped a couple of video sketches on VHS. One of them was called Skittles. And at the time, Skittles, their byline for their ad was "Taste the Rainbow." Mm-hmm. So basically, the sketch was guys eating Skittles and then they turn gay, and I mean like flaming gay, like a sailor hat and and we'd prance around, And I worked with some guys that were in my troupe that were like into gothic dance and stuff like that. So they were into the androgynous sort of blurring of things. So it wasn't like macho guys going gay dudes. We were just whatever. But man, when we played that, you could see people like going. You know, they couldn't really, and I don't even think we could even play it nowadays. I don't think it would even.
There's a huge. I don't want to say. Actually, let me rephrase that. It's not necessarily a huge gulf, but there's definitely a gulf between what we used to consider as like this is okay. Again, back in the '90s, somebody calls somebody the F word. Watch Friends. Half of the jokes on Friends are just like, Ross is possibly gay.
Right.
And, you know, like,
right.
You watch that episode now and you're like, so Ross would probably do better if he was.
He doesn't do well with women. He might,
maybe a little less drama in Ross's life.
I used to have a joke just like that. I was like, okay, so let's say I was wrong all these years, and then I one day found out I was gay. What happens? Now I just date dudes who treat me like shit. It's not gonna.
See, my gay joke is completely different. I'm like, I don't know what it is between gay men and lesbians, but you guys have like an underworld battle going on where you hate each other and like the gays hate. And I asked one of the gay people one time, I was like, what the gay guys? I'm like, why come you don't like the lesbians? They're like, oh, they're too loud. And I'm like, what? And then I asked us, why do you like, they're like too much drama with the gay guys. I'm like, holy shit, man.
That's great.
But that comes from a true thing. I'm not making an assumption about gay people. I actually asked, but even that, when you're straight and you talk about, especially me, dude, I'm straight and white. I'm not allowed to say shit about anything anymore.
Well, I think maybe part of it too. This might be a little too serious, but like, I think the public consciousness has expanded. Meaning, what was that show called? Will and Grace came on.
Yeah.
That was what. For many Americans,
the coming out.
That was the only exposure they had to gay people.
Right. And
was
Sean Hayes,
that whatever that guy's name. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
And so we, in our attempts to create acceptance, the thing went around the other direction, and we created like, if you are gay, you must be X.
Right.
And then I'll never forget. It was like 2000. And I was working at a restaurant, and there was a dude there. I'm sure I've said this on the podcast before. This guy named Ford. By the way, what's more manly than Ford?
Pretty manly name.
Deep voice.
Or gay porn name.
Yeah. Deep voice, elbows out.
Yeah.
Give you a noogie. Queer as a football bat.
Yeah.
I mean, he would pull out pictures of this little white boy and go, "That's my puppy." Like, and I never.
I don't know what that means.
It was his puppy.
Okay.
Because my exposure to homosexuals was Will and Grace.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they can be like this dude,
right?
Who's a gross dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I guess my point is, I would imagine most of the 17-year-olds today have a lot of gay friends that are just boring dudes or pretty girls, or whatever, you know.
Right. That's one thing that I don't want to use the word confront, but that's one thing I've been questioning in recent years. And I actually talked to a bunch of, friends of mine who are lesbians because like I've been trying to figure this out for the longest time. There's like what we consider the butch lesbian and the lipstick lesbian. And the thing about butch lesbians that I've never quite understood is like, I get being butch as like a whole attitude kind of thing, but like you've chosen the worst traits about men to replicate in your own lives.
The mullet.
Yeah, it's like the mullet, the spitting, like the shitty clothing. It's like those are what we look at other guys. They're like, you look fucking like shit, Greg. Like, why did you pick this to emulate? Like,
right. Is that a rat tail, Greg?
Right?
Remember, it was Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. Remember that show?
Yeah.
I remember at the time probably being still a little bit of that 90s homophobia living in me. And even I responded poorly to that idea. I was like, so you're telling me that this is what gay means? That you have to be this queenie guy in $1,000 shirts who dresses up schlubby straight guys. That's what it means to be. You're telling me that that's what it means to be a homosexual.
Yeah, and I think
like
I had a bit about it at the time where I was like, if I'm going to take fashion advice, it's not going to be from those dudes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, no offense to them, if that's the way you dress, great, but I'm not dressing like that.
Right.
I'm not doing that. So, and I don't know how that would be perceived now. Would it be perceived? Because I don't give a. I've said this many times on stage. I don't care what you do with your penis, okay, or your vagina. I don't care as long as you're a decent person and you don't hurt anybody. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. I don't think it's important. I never understood the coming out parade. Like, I get that you feel the need to be accepted, but I don't tell people what type of sex I have. I don't have that discussion with people. I don't. Straight people never talk about it. So it was always kind of off-putting. Not that I think that they shouldn't, but I just don't understand it. I just don't feel the need.
So,
but I don't live their life, so I don't know.
Right, and so that's when you were saying earlier about being like a straight white male and not having the space to comment on it.
Right.
That is
not
one of
on
those,
Facebook.
Right. Well, that's one of those things where it's like what you said at the end of like I don't understand it and I don't know how to comment on it. It's there's a lot of moments where it's like I get that I don't live your life.
Right.
So like
you understand the need that they have, but not where it comes from.
Right. So I go, hey man, if you need the parade, hands down, I will fucking build the float with you.
So where are you at on the gender pronoun thing? Is that messing with your head? Because I am confused as hell. I get it and I respect it, but also I'm like, I don't want to play. I don't want to play that game with you.
I think there's got to come. This is coming from the person it's coming from, so let's all just say that up front.
Okay, Allan.
Also the skin and the sexuality and the whole, right.
So, but here's the thing. Let me just preface you by saying, you have that right to have that opinion, Allan. That's what I was just saying a minute ago. Yeah. Somehow we're not allowed to have an opinion. I'm like, look, I don't hate you.
I am all for rational extensions of something.
Yeah.
Meaning, there came a point where Asian people were like, can we stop with the Oriental thing?
Yeah.
And Asian was a natural, reasonable extent.
But now
Asian
it's not.
makes sense.
But now it's not.
It isn't? I didn't even know that.
I don't think so.
Let's assume it is, because who knows?
The people that make the rules know. I don't know.
Right. So let's assume that Asian is a reasonable alternative to Oriental.
Yeah.
Like, don't just make up some new shit.
Right.
Zimzer is not a natural extension of something.
What did you just say?
That's a real thing.
What is it?
Zim.
Yeah.
Z-I-M. Zer. Z-E-R.
Was that an acronym for something?
Those are pronouns that people say, I go by Zimzer.
Zimzer? Like, that's a variation of him and her?
I wish to God I was making this up.
I'll Google it when I get home. I haven't gone through the whole list.
So it's like,
I know like the top 20, I think.
I'm with you. I've had some trans friends. I have some trans. I just don't care.
Right.
But like,
but they feel the need to be identified.
The they thing.
Yeah.
That is kind of natural. There are grammatical justifications for using they as a singular. That is a reasonable extension.
When you're referring to one person? Mm-hmm. Are you talking about as far as psychology?
If one wants to go to their car,
then they go to their car.
That was singular. Yeah. Okay. That was singular.
But it's not attached to gender or sexuality. It's more.
But again, the whole going from Oriental to Asian.
Right.
There is, I think, a justifiable, rational leap from only him, her to them, they.
Yeah.
If you live in a more nebulous world and you need that honored, I think that's a word that justifiably exists in the English language.
Yeah.
Them, they, got it.
Yeah.
But once you start just coming up with shit, zim, zer, that doesn't, you made that up. You made that up.
I'm okay with any of it, even the made up stuff, as long as you're not penalizing people for not following your protocol.
Yes.
I have a problem with the subjugation of people not wanting to do it. Like, when they get mad that you didn't do it right, and some act like it's an affront to them. I don't care. I mean, okay, yeah, whatever.
There is always that thing where it's like
It's tough.
There's a difference between I'm committing a slur
Right.
against somebody,
Of course.
and
Versus tripping.
right.
I mean,
like-
look, I bet there's a 70-year-old guy out there with really good heart who still says colored.
Yeah, my
You know what I
grandmother.
mean? Your grandmother.
She's 104. She
Yeah.
lives in a nursing
Yeah.
home, and it's all the nurses are black, and she calls them the colors. And every now and again, I'm like, wait, don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
And she thinks she's doing it. That's her PC. She thinks she's being respectful.
Well, I don't think she
You
would
know?
ever use the N word. I don't think I've ever heard her say that. My father was in prison for a while, and he's passed away, but he used that word here and there. And a few times I was like, dude, I got friends that use that as the term of endearment, white guys. And I'm like, on the phone, I'm like, I don't say something, but I feel like saying, hey, dude, really? What are you doing?
So like that's kind of what I'm getting at though, is like there's a difference between saying a slur because you're intending to put somebody down
Right.
and
Context is
saying, hey, this is Lauren, she, and then it's like, well, how could you call me a she? Don't you understand? And it's like, we just need to identify who you are for the purposes of this conversation.
Yeah.
I will write my essay of an apology later.
Later.
Can we just finish ordering at McDonald's?
Yeah. All right, boys, I'm starting to feel like shit. So I got vaxxed yesterday, so I just feel like...
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Which one'd you get?
That was my booster.
You got the booster?
I got the Moderna booster.
How long ago did you get your vaccine? Is it over 8 months?
No, I got one in May. But I'm immune compromised.
I see.
So
I see. Good for you.
That's why.
He's got to be extra careful.
All right, and I've been feeling like crap for the last 10 minutes.
Well, listen, Alan. Even though you felt like crap and you're all vaxxed up, you did a hell of a job.
well, thank you very much.
Ed
And you
Brown.
did too, and we appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
Plug shit. Where can we find you?
GorgeousComedy.com. All my tour dates are on there, all 9 of them. Thanks, pandemic. The podcast is coming soon. I'm going to get back. We had double special. You can find that on iTunes, old episodes there. But yeah, Gorgeous Comedy, GORGES comedy.com, at Gorgeous Comedy on Twitter and Instagram and all that crap.
So, how about this?
So how about
How about
this?
this? I gotta go. Bye.
Everything we do matters.
Hey, thanks for listening to that episode of So How About This? Whatever you are using to listen, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit whatever extra button they make you push these days. On Twitter, you can find us at So How About This One. The words are So How About This, followed by the number 1. Leave us some beautiful comments there. Ask us questions. If you want us to talk about something on the podcast, let us know. We'll bring it up while we record, and we'll see you next time.